and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing at a time I'm not going to reveal. How about that? Joining us from Naples, Florida, where it's football season, thank God, is our front office man, Bobby Marks.
Gentlemen, it sure is. A little night practice, 3 or 4 days in, and a little steamy in the afternoon, and 5:30 to 9 o'clock at night for night practices down here.
Love it. Joining us from someplace in the Western Hemisphere is Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Actually spent this afternoon just floating down the Truckee River. Tough day, and then went to the beach.
Use sunscreen, I hope?
I did, although I don't think I did it real well in the knees. I've got really red knees right now. So,
did you actually go into the Truckee River, or did you stay successfully on the float?
No, I hopped in there. I mean,
All right.
got in the water and, and ended up going to the beach and hopped in the lake. If you get in there, it's not bad. It's, if you kind of halfway it, then it's pretty chilly.
I see. Is that glacier fed? I once went whitewater rafting on a glacier fed river in British Columbia in the middle of summer, and you had to wear a wetsuit.
Oh, wow.
They didn't tell me that when we signed up for it. They sort of sprung that on me.
No wetsuit necessary. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't tell if it's glacier fed or not. I just know the water is.
I'm sure it's not. If
clear.
It was, you'd know. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Anyway, well, I'm glad you're having a good time. Okay, so Bobby, you have a piece out today. We're not quite at the. If there was like a status bar for the 2026 offseason, we would probably be in the 90% range, right, Bobby?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some.
We just got a couple free agents trickling out there, right? We're still waiting on aspiration.
I was going to say a couple of, some free agents, just a little investigation that's holding up a blockbuster trade, just a little bit of unfinished business.
For sure. All right. Well, Bobby, you have speaking of 2026 drawing to a close, or so we think, you have your annual piece that you have in August, which is a look at the next year.
That's
right. It's never too early to start planning for next Christmas. And so you have a piece out about looking at the 2027 offseason, the 10 biggest questions for 2027. And right out of the gate, you give us an update on cap space, because that's always the big barometer. And why don't you do it for us here and now?
It's fun. A year ago, we wrote the same article. I think there was a third of the teams that were projected to have cap space. And guess how many teams had cap space? 3. We go through it's so fluid. Extensions, like Portland could have been a team, and they extended Kamaro and Shaden Sharp. Utah and then the Wizards go and get Trae Young and AD and Jaren Jackson and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat we were a year ago. There's 9 to 10 teams that are sitting in a position to have money to go out and spend. Brooklyn, of course, Chicago, teams that were in there already. I mean, there's some wild cards. The Hawks are one of those teams that have flexibility, and they don't have extendable guys. Basically, CJ is on expiring. But of course, the big one's going to be Golden State. I mean, Golden State, when we're looking at marquee level, I know Lakers were this year, marquee level teams to go out and have spending power, it's going to be Golden State out there. And a lot of it's going to be dependent on what happens with Curry. The Curry, hey, listen, if Curry extends for that number, which is a whopper, I think it's like 2 for 135, 136, something like that. That's going to take away, they're not going to have as much as they potentially could, even with Butler or Green coming off the book. So 9 to 10 teams right now, but of course, Golden State is going to be the team we're going to circle here.
Well, I think it's instructive that this summer, and I know it's not quite apples to apples, but this summer, the Warriors came to Draymond Green and said, hey, why don't you opt out? Well, I don't know who came to who. Let me not say that. But at some point, there was an understanding between Draymond Green and the Warriors. Hey, opt out of this contract just to give us some optionality, with LeBron and whatever else. And, they ended up not getting anybody, and they re-signed Draymond right into the contract that he was already in. Now, I know it's not the same because one is being signed right away and one is a year from now. But, if Curry and the Warriors can't trust each other, who can trust anybody? So I do think, look, Steph has earned the right, obviously, to ask for the 135 on August 29th. I think that's the date when he can extend.
Yep.
I think 2 years is the max he can extend because of his age.
Yeah, the over 38 rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, over 38. Steph Curry's over 38.
Like you say, if the Warriors and Steph can't trust each other, who can? Draymond's been there an awfully long time too. Those are the two longest tenured players with their current teams, and Draymond obviously worked with them. They worked with each other to sort of, kind of, after the fact, opt into the last year of his contract. He declined it, then basically opt in. But interesting little tidbit from Slater, where Draymond waived what would have been an implicit no trade clause because it was a 1-year deal, staying with the same team, but would receive a 15% trade kicker. So I guess Draymond's basically saying, hey, if you want to move me, that's fine. Give me the 15% kicker, because for him, what's the use of holding up a trade if they're looking to get off him and he's going to be expiring anyway?
Right. He could have gotten not even an implied trade, no trade. He could have gotten an actual no trade in there.
The big one.
How many no trades do we have out there in the league right now?
We got one, Dame.
Yeah.
Dame's the last man standing. Yeah. We had at one time we had Beal. We know how that went. And certainly they tried getting rid of him, trade him in Phoenix, and that was hard. Beal, LeBron, Dame. Yeah. Dame eventually. Yeah. But they don't exist anymore. Teams don't give those out. You know why, Chew, real quick? Why because you can't have them in an extension. You can only have them in a real, and who gets to free agency anymore?
Right? Yeah. So the rules for a no trade clause are you have to have at least 8 years experience in the league, and you have to have at least 4 with the team that you're signing with. They don't have to be consecutive. So like when LeBron, went back to did he get a no trade when he went back to Cleveland? I can't remember if he did or not.
I think he did.
To your point, he could have gotten one if he went to Cleveland or Miami, but not going to Philly.
That's right. And Dame, signed with the Blazers, obviously had been gone for a couple of years, but because he had those first two check marks, he was able to get it.
Yeah, he did not get a no relocation clause, though, which I think he would have.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting. Brad Beal didn't get a no relocation clause either. He was relocated several times. All right, so let's take a look at. Well, before I get into that, if Steph Curry is willing not to extend, Bobby, and if the Warriors don't do a new deal for Brandon Podziemski, and look, I'm not saying that either makes sense. I mean, if Steph wants to extend, you're going to give it to him, and maybe you'd rather sign Podziemski now as opposed to next year. But if those two things happen, which are reasonable, and you've got Jimmy Butler on the last year of his contract, you'd have Steph on the last year of his contract. Kristaps Porzingis is only guaranteed $3 million next year of the 20 that he signed for. He has a player option, but just $3 million guaranteed. Al Horford has a player option. I'm not sure how much of that's guaranteed.
7-1.
The whole thing's guaranteed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Draymond last year, his deal.
Right. Draymond last year, his deal. What are we talking about in possible cap space for the Warriors?
Well, I mean, you've got $39 million in salary, caps at 174. I mean, you got to, yeah, I mean, look, it could be, it could be a monster.
Could be $100 million.
It could be a monster number. I mean, it really can be, especially if you take Porzingis off. I mean, as you said, it's
obviously they might want to keep somebody to fill out their roster. Who are the other teams cap wise that were given an eye?
So Clips are going to be up there again. They've got a bunch of expirings, especially if they, even with Ingram, if that trade eventually comes through. You're looking at Atlanta, Brooklyn, Chicago, Golden State, Clips, Memphis, Milwaukee, New Orleans, Sacramento. Not really marquee teams out there, but Golden State Clips would be interesting. I think Clippers will be because that was always their big thing with the Clippers. That's why they structured some of those contracts where they were basically going to try to get 2 swings at it in 26 this summer, which they didn't, because of the Kawhi thing still in limbo. And then 27 when, we'll talk about it in a minute, like 27 free agent class. And a lot of it's based on who extends. 27 free agent class is like pretty loaded.
Okay, let's do it right now. So it's only worth 100 million is only worth having unless you can use it on somebody. So let's look at the guys who, as we're recording this, can be free agents.
So we'll say Giannis is one, but the likelihood is he extends in Miami, right? So we could probably take
Can't do that till the fall, but yes.
Yep. So you got Curry, Jokic.
Well, let me just go down your list. So you have Giannis, likely extension in Miami. Kawhi Leonard, last year of a $50 million deal. The Raptors, if they get him, I believe, considering what they're giving up, multiple first-round picks plus Brandon Ingram, they intend to extend his contract.
The plan is for him to go to Toronto and be extended, but it might not be up to Kawhi. We'll see.
Giannis is off the board. Kawhi, we just generally don't know. I would suspect he eventually gets to Toronto and eventually extends, but he hasn't yet. All right. Nikola Jokic. Now, Bobby, this is a complicated one. Explain what Jokic is doing.
Yeah. So he's basically, this is the second summer in a row he's done it. He was eligible last year for 3 years. He decided not to do it, and he said he wanted to wait until the summer of 26 because you can get a fourth year, basically an extra $70-80 million. We get to this summer now, and he's saying, well, I'm going to wait until the summer of 27 because now I can do a 5-year deal worth $360 million. So it's an extra $80 million. It's a big number. I trust when he talks and he says this is where he wants to be. But man, this could be a rocky year in Denver. Just based on where they are right now. They didn't really do much in the offseason ad. Peyton Watson's kind of, still, out there and everything. But I would not, if I was in that ownership group, I would not want that over my head.
Well, the concept here real quick. So he's going to be 31 this year. Okay. So the idea is that if he doesn't sign now and he signs when he's 32, that he can sign all the way out till he's 37, right? Or 36, 37. And so the idea is, why not guarantee yourself whatever, 70 whatever million in age 36? Why not do that? And if you're a Nuggets fan, you're saying, sounds good. I'm going to go to sleep and sleep well. But if that's the case, he's got a player option for next year. So why not just pick up the player option and sign at age 33 till you're 39? Or 38 or whatever it is. If we're to believe, first off, do we honestly believe that the Nuggets wouldn't sign Jokic to a contract that he wanted? Number one. Number two, if that's truly what he's doing, if he's waiting to make sure that he gets paid the maximum amount of money when he's in his late 30s, if that is the case, and he did that last summer and he's doing it again this summer, ergo, would he do it again next year when he's got a player option? I'm not expecting you guys to have the answer. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm impressed by the use of ergo in a sentence. Look, it's not a coincidence that the Nuggets are diving deeper than they ever have into the luxury tax right now. That they basically just paid, what was it, Bobby? Like $38 million this year?
$38 million to keep Spencer Jones.
$6 million salary, all that.
For now. For now.
$6 million salary and all that tax. They are at least bluffing that they're not going to be looking to dump Cam Johnson or Christian Brown, which the widespread belief was that they would in order to be positioned to keep Peyton Watson. And look, Nikola Jokic, a no-brainer Hall of Famer if he never played another second of basketball, a champion, multi-time MVP. He's obviously earned the right to sign the largest contract in NBA history and not have anybody question it one bit. But he is doing the exact opposite of what Jalen Brunson did and the opposite of what Victor Wembanyama did, not in the years, but at least in the money, where those guys, Brunson signed his earlier, taking significantly less money because his max extension at the time wasn't nearly as much because his salary wasn't nearly as much. in order to give them the flexibility to build out the roster. Wemby just took he reinvented the Fun Max, Wendy.
I know, right after I buried it.
Yeah, he made the Fun Max come back because he wants to make sure they've got the flexibility to build out that roster. And Joker's got a championship ring. He's not prioritizing flexibility and being able to build out the roster. And I'm not saying that to criticize. I'm just stating a plain fact.
There's probably been no lower stress superstar in the modern era than Nikola Jokic. And you got people in Denver saying to me, I know this guy as well as anybody. He ain't going anywhere. And I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying, I don't know how you can sleep well.
I would say the two lower stress superstars, and we can debate modern era, but Tim Duncan and Dirk Nowitzki, both.
No, they're modern era, 2000s.
Okay, so they're lower stress, both no drama, one franchise, legends. Duncan was the foundation of a dynasty. Dirk was part of a franchise that won 50 games and 11 straight years and won a championship. And when they're at this point in their career where Joker is, they were taking drastic hometown discounts. So that's a lot lower stress than a guy who's taking every penny he can get. And there's a whole lot of pennies.
Fair point. All right. Speaking of the Fun Max, Karl Towns is a possible free agent next year as well. He has a player option, extension eligible this summer. Haven't heard a peep about that. There was just a very long Q&A in the New York Times /Athletic with Karl Towns. Covered many, many topics. The word contract was, several thousand words. I searched it. The word contract did not appear.
Oh.
So, it's imperative for the Knicks to keep him, but the Knicks have apron issues, Bobby, and, I don't know where this is going to land. I would bet that Towns eventually signs, but he has not yet.
I agree. I mean, I think it's really so he's got another year with a player option around 60. It's the year after. That's the one to circle because you've got Brunson. He ain't taking a discount.
Hell no.
I mean, he already did, and it's time to cash in.
So you got that. You've got OG. You've got Bridges. Josh Hart's extension is eligible too. He's got a team option next year. Yeah, I mean that's as you said, Brian's like the hard thing is to win it, and then the other hard part is to keep it together, and that's it. You basically are going to have guys continually to sacrifice here, but he's one of AD in Washington. Same thing. He's got player options.
Yeah, so there's another one. So Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis has 2 years and $120 million left, 58 this year, 62 and change next year. Can opt out of next year. I don't know how likely it is he's opting out of 62. I could see him opting out of 62 and getting a new deal that lowered that number. Question is that going to be in Washington or is that going to be elsewhere? The Wizards right now don't intend to trade. I'll tell you, all the Wizards moves are of a team that is very serious about trying to make the playoffs this year. In fact, Shams caused me to stutter a couple of days ago when he reported the Wizards were knocking on DeMar DeRozan's door just to check in there. I don't know how likely that is. Their roster is full, but
I think AD's been knocking on DeMar DeRozan's door trying to.
I mean, again, how many guys do you want to have on your roster who need the ball in their hands?
Well, I think the point.
I'd like the number one overall pick to be able to touch it every once in a while.
Well, that's fine. I mean, you can analyze that. I'm just saying it's more, they went out and traded for DeAndre Ayton. They went out and signed Chris Middleton, paid, significantly more than the minimum to get Chris Middleton. And I don't know how much he's going to contribute, but they just want him there as an option. Like,
you want him there because he's a great presence around the young players on the roster.
I agree. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, Washington, obviously re-signed Trae Young. I don't know if you heard. They are not easing into this AJ DeBonsa era. So, okay, a couple other guys on this list. Jimmy Butler, he's eligible in February. We talked about the Warriors potentially wanting flexibility. It's kind of hard to extend a guy coming off an ACL who's in his mid-30s. But he's out there. A couple of situations in Phoenix. Miles Bridges was traded to Phoenix in the offseason, has not extended. And it's my understanding that he's not going to extend immediately, that may be something they look at over medium term. So we'll see. And then Dylan Brooks, who was he's been extension eligible for a while, right, Bobby?
He was extension eligible, I believe, a year ago, and then he couldn't. Once the season started, he couldn't, and he's been since the finals ended, he's been eligible.
Keep an eye on those two. I mean, they obviously, I think, had interest in keeping Bridges long term when they traded for him, and then Dylan had such a great year, a great influence on them last year. I'm sure there's interest there, but the rest of the guys, I guess also on this list would be Lou Dort. The Thunder were not going to extend him. I never say never. I think the Hawks are intending to play that one out a little bit.
Well, as Bobby mentioned, the Hawks are in position to have be front of the line in terms of shoppers, and a lot of you can talk about Golden State, but I would say of the teams that you listed, tell me if you guys feel otherwise, but I think the Hawks are the best positioned teams among the potential cap space teams to put together a potential contender right away.
They're in position. Yeah.
One more interesting name, Tyler Hero, on the last year of a $33 million a year deal, or $33 million this year, going back home to Milwaukee. Tyler's a good player, has been an all-star. I'm not sure, this is one of those situations where you may want to watch it play out a little bit, but he could extend into the season, right, Bobby?
Yeah, he's got he's eligible now, and he can go up to June 30th.
Not making your list was Kyle Kuzma, also extension eligible in Milwaukee. Just point that out.
My students last week 2 weeks ago at Sports Business Classroom told me that they believe, I don't want to cast judgments on people, that the Kuzma what the memos he's been sending out are AI generated. I don't want to say they
the
are
memos. Yeah.
He's been memos about a lot of different things, cap related, of course, right? There's been some things out there, so he's not on my list.
Well, I question the I part of it.
A couple of the other guys who can be free agents next summer, I'm not including for right now the rookies who will likely extend or have a chance to extend. We'll just the Amen and Asar Thompsons of the world, Brandon Miller. Let's just wait on that a little bit. But some other names out there who have options to become free agents or contracts are up. Michael Porter Jr., keeping an eye on that one in Brooklyn. Julius Randle has a player option. Fred VanVleet is going to be a free agent. Rudy Gobert has a player option. RJ Barrett will be a free agent.
You forgot the former Brooklyn teammates, Kyrie and Durant.
Those are big names. I forgot. I missed that line. Yes. That would be fascinating. Kyrie Irving is just sort of he's like this big giant unknown, how that's all going to play out in Dallas. He's been laying under the radar.
And the Mavericks don't have any interest in trading him at this point. Kyrie does not have any interest in being traded at this point. I just think that's a situation that teams will monitor as the season goes and kind of transaction cycle to transaction cycle.
Yeah. So, all right, that's sort of the broad top landscape. One of the other things that you are tracking here, Bobby, is the players who can make All NBA or win MVP or Defensive Player of the Year this upcoming year and become supermax eligible. One of those guys that I thought was going to be on the list was Victor Wembanyama, but he has passed on the supermax. So
Wemby will still care about the 65-game limit, although there's no financial incentive. He'll still care about awards. I can promise you that.
Well, Bobby, who are some of the guys who could have a big year this year and knock themselves into position to really get giant paydays.
Tyrese Maxey.
Ho!
What happens down in Philadelphia, right? A little bit different now with the LeBron and there you go, Tim, and Jaylen Brown on that roster. He's certainly one. 4 for 301, I believe, would be the number for him. Yeah, how about that?
I mean, these numbers, we are not far away from $100 million a year for somebody.
I mean, the Jokic numbers, if Jokic does that deal, he'll make $730 million in his career.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're also not far away from the first $1 billion player, like career.
No, well, I thought it was going to be Luka. I did too. And then I thought it was going to be Wemby.
I just saw that Macklin Celebrini, who is Rick Celebrini, the longtime, I don't know what his exact title is, but he's the head medical guy for the Warriors. His son Macklin just signed a deal with the San Jose Sharks that made him the highest paid player in the NHL. And the average annual salary is $19 million a year.
Wow.
One of my, I always take on like summer homework. So I'm studying the NHL CBA. So the crazy thing,
talk about something I'm not doing this summer.
I'm not allowed to.
When they say that the annual average is 19 million, that's important because that's how they calculate it for cap purposes. So they don't take so they could pay this guy, and he's really good. I mean, they could pay him 30 million in the first year, and you can pay him like 7 million in the second year. But as long as what the average is, that's what counts against the cap.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, my point is that, the NBA guys, are sniffing 80 million a year on some of the back end of some of these deals. And, in the NHL, it's, the highest annual AAV is 19. Who else, Bobby, besides Maxey?
Ant Edwards. He would have been eligible. He would have been eligible this offseason, or he would have been eligible next year. He would have met the criteria to sign in next year because he would have earned all NBA back-to-back years, but he didn't hit that 65 game, clause, and arbitration went, haywire. And
do the Wolves want him to get that or not? Because this is specifically designed.
They do, because the move they made to go get LaMelo Ball was to kind of tell the Vultures go somewhere else. But the Vultures can U-turn real quick, and they don't want Vultures circling around Ant Edwards. And one way to prevent that is to be able to pay him significantly more than anybody else.
So I see another one here. Tyrese Halliburton would require a pretty big bounce back year, but it could happen.
It could. I mean, we went through. This is the first summer we haven't had any. I think we went 3 years in a row. I think we went Jalen, Tatum, and then Shea. Right, 24, 25, 23, 24, 25. Right. Yeah, we had no supermaxes this year. Yeah, Jane McDaniels, if somehow he earns all NBA, he's defensive player of the year somehow. I don't see that happening, but he would be on the list. Zion. Man, how about Zion? Imagine that. Imagine Zion.
He put Zion on there. Hey, listen, what do I know? Maybe Zion will have a great year, but even if he does, I can't see them giving him the supermax.
Well, especially considering next year's non-guaranteed.
No kidding.
You never know.
You never know.
All right. So you also have on here the list of first round picks and what's moved around.
Yeah.
This has got to be the most confusing batch of picks ever. I just want to read.
Wait till we really decipher it down the road and stuff like that.
I want to read you, MacMahon. I have no hope of understanding this. I'm just going to read the words as Bobby has them written. Okay. This is for Utah. This is Utah's first. I've never seen anything more complicated. Okay. And just so we see this, there's potentially 2 or 3 firsts here, Bobby. I can't even tell.
I think it's just, they have the second most favorite.
All right, no, let me read it. No, let me read it. I'm just going to read the words as Bobby has them written. Okay. Utah has the second most favorable of their own Cleveland or Minnesota. Semicolon. Most favorable to Memphis and least favorable to Phoenix.
Okay.
Do you follow that, MacMahon?
And that most favorable one can't be in the top 5 because they finished because of the new lottery rules. And that's right. Why Memphis voted no against the rules.
My God.
So honestly, there's capologists. We're at the point we need swapologists.
Oh my God.
You're not kidding.
Some of these swaps are we reading them and I'm like, oh my God, somebody please put this on a chart and have the arrows explaining things to me.
Just tell me the draft order after the lottery, in all honesty.
Sure.
And the dynamics of the swap that Philly negotiated with Boston as part of the
that's a whopper. That's next year. I mean, that is a whopper in itself.
These front offices are getting more and more and more creative with the language on the traded picks, or that one is it just a traded pick? Is it a swap? That depends on where it falls. And
yeah, well, let me read you Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City's got multiple firsts.
Oh my goodness.
Oklahoma City has the two most favorable. Do you hear that? The two most favorable of their own. Denver's, but only if it falls outside the top 5, and the Clippers. Semicolon. And I'm now on my fifth finger. And San Antonio's if it falls between 17 and 30. Did you hear all that?
Pretty good bet it will now. And by the way, just touching back on the Nuggets, the Thunder have the Nuggets pick next year, and assuming it conveys again in 29. So, I mean, geez.
Well, another thing, we know that Atlanta made that deal with New Orleans, and they ended up getting the 8th pick in this year's draft, which they drafted Kingston Flemings. So they have another interesting. They owe their pick to San Antonio, but they have another interesting situation in this draft. Okay, they have the least favorable of Milwaukee and New Orleans.
I mean, that's still got a chance to be a pretty juicy pick.
But only if it's 5 to 30.
Oh.
So if they're both top 5, then the Hawks get hosed, huh?
Or top 4. Yeah. Top 4. Yeah.
Top 4,
basically
right.
They protected it a little bit on. That's from the DeJounte Murray trade.
This is also interesting. After offloading their, if you remember a couple of years ago, Brooklyn made the move to reacquire control of their pick, both in 25 and 26. And now, Houston had control of those 2 years, and Houston pushed it back. So Houston now has the Nets in a vice going forward. So they have swap rights with the Nets this year.
And that was the pick. Bontemps would always defend the Nets. I always said it was crazy to me that the Nets gave up what they did. They gave up Dallas's 29 in that, and the Suns, was it 3 picks, Bobby? I think it was a swap and 2 picks.
It's almost like you took out like a home equity loan, Brooklyn did. Like they basically, like Houston loaned them the money, and now it's time to pay up. Based on, that the trade, the conditions of that trade would have been reached or met already. But it's, the swap and that's upcoming year. And then there's 2 other futures down, like there's a Dallas one, there's a Phoenix one, there's like some other things.
I think there might be 2 Phoenixes left, but regardless, basically what they did was they gave the Nets permission to bottom out for 2 years, permission to do, logical permission to do the Bridges trade where they got the haul of first round picks. But the Nets didn't, the ping pong balls didn't bounce their way in those drafts. They didn't get they didn't get AJ DeBonsa or Cooper Flagg or, one of those type of players in these last couple of years. And now they're sitting there staring at a season when it's going to be tough for them to be real competitive, and they're going to have to swap picks with the Rockets.
As far as the 2027 draft itself, the players, Jeremy Wu gave a little assessment for us. Several of the big names in this draft are big names in college, new players to college in 26, 27, are guys who have to play 2 years because of the age limit. Guys who, we talked about this a few weeks ago.
Marcus Spears Jr. and the Serbian kid who's going to UCLA.
Yeah, I think there's 3 of them.
Boomshay.
Boomshay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going to Duke, I believe.
Love Boomshay. Wu has Teron Stokes, who's at Kansas, as his projected number 1 overall pick. It's fool's gold to try to project the draft way out, but it's just not quite the same excitement as the class of 26. So, and then the lottery is going to be all wonky. I have no idea how that's going to go.
It's going to be live right in front of everyone. I don't know how Malik is going to do it. Because it's already hard.
I know. Well, Malika goes through let's just make this story time presented by SoFi. Get your money right. Hey, it's Wendy here. Are you looking to rebound from your high-interest credit card debt? A SoFi personal loan could help. Consolidate your debt with a SoFi personal loan into one low monthly payment, and you could save money on interest over time. And with as soon as the same day funding, you could hit the ground running ASAP. Apply today with no fees required at SoFi.com/debt rebound. Loans originated by SoFi Bank. NA member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. NMLS 696891. Fast funds terms apply at SoFi.com/debt rebound. I was at the lottery this year, and it's the first time I'd actually physically been at the lottery in 20 years. And I was there in the afternoon, and Malika was running through practices. Like she was, she was basically in there was a dozen people or so in the room, but she was running through the lottery over and over and over so that she could, there are certain things that happen so she could practice them. So if this happened, that happened. And, she did a great job with it, but yeah, maybe she should just hand that one off. Isn't there some tennis event that she needs to be?
Exactly. French? When is the French?
We don't have the French.
Oh, we don't. That's right.
No, we have the other three.
We got three out of the other four, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Did we cover all 10 of your questions, Bobby? I don't know.
Well, the apron, listen, the apron's going to the apron's coming back. We don't.
Thank God. I was worried the apron was going away.
Let me ask this, Bobby. How much do you think the apron impacts the possibility of using restricted free agency to poach players?
Yeah.
Because
I
think for example, I think there's a team like Memphis that is a cap space team. Look, maybe not ever going to be a primary free agency destination. I mean, they did manage to pull off signing Chandler Parsons to a max deal. But if a team's in a bind and they can throw significantly more money than a team wants to or feels like they can afford to pay to keep a player, I think it's going to be an interesting strategy that we see emerging over the next few years.
I mean, it's like what happens if Oklahoma City and Case and Wallace don't get a deal done, right? Like, would you just go in there and plop down something on him? The Thompson twins in Detroit and Houston. I mean, both those teams are pretty decent shape financially. We'll see what happens with Jalen Duren. But yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be a strategy. It's almost like a bigger version of which is funny because OKC was a second apron team. Then they got under and then they go basically to the Spencer Jones offer sheet, right? Like say, hey, it was a smaller number, but hey, if you're going to match it, you're going to go right into the, and pay a penalty.
It's clear. I know Sam Presti's got on the record with the Oklahoman and said the moves they made now are made to create the financial flexibility to keep this roster intact. But if they're giving Case and Wallace a big raise, if they're giving AJ Mitchell a big raise, who might be available from their roster? I mean, they traded 3 quality role players this summer. Could there be more opportunities like that for teams?
We will be talking about it at great length over the next 10 months. I like the story that our colleague Zach Cram came out with a couple of days ago, taking a look at what players may be improving their position to be on the 28 Olympic team in LA. This is an interesting time because typically the U.S. would have to go through the qualifying cycle in the 27 World Cup, that's sort of like the stick and carrot. You tell some young players who maybe haven't had a chance to make the big team yet, come play in the World Cup. You play well enough, you end up qualifying. This is what happened with Ant Edwards, for example. He played in 2023 in the World Cup, was the best player of the team. He's on the 24 Olympic team. Same with Tyrese Halliburton. And so Cram's looking at that. But the U.S. does not have to qualify for the World Cup in 27 because the U.S. is hosting. The World Cup in 27 is actually supposed to take place in Doha. The NBA was planning on having games in Doha this fall. I believe the Wizards and Nets were planning on going there, and possibly even the Cavs and Heat were looking at going to Abu Dhabi, and then I think going to Doha. But the Wizards and Nets were going to Doha. They never were announced. And a few days ago, the NBA decided to just move on from that, obviously because of the situation in the Middle East. I hope that we're not at war any longer a year from now. But if the World Cup is still in Qatar, I don't know how attractive it's going to be for players to go try to play there when the U.S. doesn't have to qualify. But he named some players to keep an eye on, and a couple of them I thought were very interesting. One, Scotty Barnes, MacMahon, absolutely. Two-way player, great size, can hit the outside shot, defends. Definitely a guy I think will get invited to the World Cup team.
I agree with everything you said except for the outside shot part, but he can play 1 through 5. Phenomenal athlete, and a playmaker, a finisher, an elite defensive player. Yeah, he would make a lot of sense.
Another guy, Jaden McDaniels. Now, the big problem, and I don't care so much about the World Cup in 27. I mean, it's a good event that you learn a lot at. I care. I've covered 3 World Cups. Trust me, I care. But I don't care so much about the U.S.'s performance. But when you're looking at the 28 Olympics, you're looking at the French, who have played the U.S. in the final the last 2 Olympics. And you're looking at Victor. And you're wondering about Victor and how you're going to handle that. Well, Jaden McDaniels had some moments against Victor in the playoffs this year. Cram mentions him, and I think he's a candidate too, Bobby.
Well, and I think he's a candidate too because I think he's going to be spotlighted probably more this year with no Julius and no Naz Reid in Minnesota. And I think you saw offensively he could, carry a little bit there in that Denver series. Certainly when they had all those injuries.
Closeout game, my goodness.
Oh yeah, I mean, and they're going to probably play him at the 4, right? I think probably. I think he's. I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah,
I don't think they have a choice. But no, he's an interesting guy. You see him in maybe next summer, and Billy did maybe try to get one of those final spots.
Well, and you have to have guys who are capable, willing, and proven role players. You can't have everybody who thinks they're going to score 28 points a game.
That's why Derek White, there was a lot of, there was some, obviously people had things that they thought about. Derek White was one of the last guys picked. Well, Derek White has no problem being a role player.
Right.
And that was part of the reason why he was on that roster in Paris. Cram has Con Knipple on here, and obviously a guy who can shoot like that is valuable in any league in the world.
He has Knipple under the stock falling.
Yeah, he doesn't have Cooper Flagg, who absolutely I think will be. He was tremendous on the select team. They have a team that goes to camp that started to play against the senior team. Flagg was headed into his freshman year at Duke, his only year at Duke, and he was one of the best players on the court. Everybody walked away just blown away, impressed. Not that they didn't know already, but that was like the highest level competition I'd ever seen him play against. And
in this story, he's got a handful of guys whose stock is rising, a handful of guys whose stock is falling. It's not necessarily a roster projection.
Right.
I think everybody would be pretty shocked if Cooper Flagg's not on the 28 Olympic roster for Team USA.
He has Jalen Brunson on here as well as the stock rising. And of course, Jalen Brunson played on the 2023 World Cup team and was not particularly effective. Players that are undersized and defensively challenged are not something Team USA typically looks to. Having said that, he's undersized and defensively challenged in the NBA and just won the Finals MVP. So
after scoring 45 in the closeout game.
I seem to remember that performance of him managing Victor quite well in that situation. But also, Chris Paul was that way too, and Chris Paul won multiple gold medals. So it's not an ironclad rule. I would agree that if Jalen Brunson wants to play, that'll be the case. So obviously, there's some legacy guys. If LeBron wants to play, he'll get a roster spot.
Now that one's interesting because LeBron has said, he's got the quote in here. LeBron had said in November on his podcast, "Don't even ask. I'll be watching it from Cabo." But he just made it very clear he plans to play at least 2 years for Philly. And if he's going to have his career end with the 27-28 NBA season, why not go out with the fifth Olympics? He's got a place in LA. Doesn't even have to stay in a hotel,
It's quite a place in LA, I've heard.
Yeah.
Durant is not on Zach's list here, but if Durant is the greatest U.S. Olympian in basketball ever. I would think Durant, if he wants to play in the next Olympics, would have a chance to be the flag bearer, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So,
unless it's LeBron.
LeBron's already done it in the driving rain on the Seine in Paris. So anyway, check out Zach's article. It's got a lot of good stuff in it. Thank you so much to our producers. Thank you to Jackson for limping through some technical difficulties on this one. Thank you to Bobby and MacMahon. Thank you for listening and watching the Hoop Collective. We'll talk to you in the next couple of days.
Adios, amigos.